So I think Formula E has a wet qualifying problem, and we saw this in Berlin of season 11 this year. We had a full wet qualifying session where they had to drop the duels and just do Group A, Group B fighting for the fastest lap wins. Now, to set the scene, obviously dry qualifying in Formula E is pretty simple. I'll explain it just in case you are fairly new to Formula E and may have discovered it after watching Formula 1 or another sport and want to know what it's all about. Well, the qualifying format is set up into two groups. They split the championship into odd positions and even positions, so first, third, fifth, seventh and so on, and second, fourth, sixth and eighth all go together. And the top four of the odds and the top four of the evens, after doing short sessions on their own, so Group 8 go out first, set the fastest lap, the top four get set to a knockout stage, and then the exact same happens with Group B. The top four out of that session then go into what looks to me like a FIFA World Cup knockout stage where they go into what they call the duels. But in Berlin this year they didn't do the duels, so the alternative was to still do Group A and Group B and then the fastest laps from each. Now, there isn't a top four in this. If they set the fastest times in Group A first and then Group B went out, it still would be Group A at the top. And this is where I thought there was a slight disadvantage, because the track did look slightly drier in Group B, and of course they had the extra track optimization knowledge, so there was all that to play, and I just think that there's a better way. So my idea is simple. Instead of having two groups in rotation, you have one 25-minute qualifying session, and here's the catch. One car from each team can only be on the track at once. So if Pascal Wehrlein goes out, Porsche cannot send out Da Costa until he comes across the pit entry line, then lets out Da Costa to set the lap. And it becomes more of a team strategic game than it does a fairness between who's in Group A and Group B. So, and of course, tracks can get wetter through that qualifying session. They can also get drier, but it allows the team to assess what's going on. The tracks are fairly small in Formula E, so 2 minutes probably won't make too much difference unless if it really pelts down with rain. But I just think the ability to be able to have a couple of laps in the damper track and then it get drier, and then they can send them out in, one after the other once they've completed their lap, just seems a better option if there isn't duels. And Formula E is all about innovation, it's all about trying new things, and I think it wouldn't hurt to try this. Logistically, it wouldn't make too much difference to how they would do the weekend. The fans would still get a decent qualifying setting. I guess they would have to produce this maybe for the TV graphics, but this is kind of a one-off, and wet qualifying doesn't tend to happen very often in Formula E, even though pretty much the whole of season 11 had a wet race every weekend, which was great, not so great, because wet races, I believe, in Formula E aren't the same impact as like they do in Formula 1. I always find that Formula E's wet races are less exciting than the dry ones. I think Formula E is really set up for dry racing. Obviously, in comparison to Formula 1, I find it gets more exciting because it kind of levels the playing field. But Formula E as a sport is quite a level playing field. We've had so many different winners over this season, and it's really exciting to see. So to be spoilt by a wet qualifying is something that I would hope that Formula E could fix. And I'm hoping that maybe this format could work. And I've tested this out when I used to drive in the Gran Turismo leagues. We used to have a 25-minute session, and when we had a wet one on some of the smaller tracks, we could only send one teammate out at a time because of the track size, and it worked really well because you had that mad dash at the end, and if you messed up on your final lap, you still had to come in because it would be not fair on your teammate, and it really made some good highlighted moments. So Formula E, try and adapt it because it is fun and it's also really exciting. So that's sort of my take on wet qualifying. Not that we have it very much, and I absolutely love the groups and the duels and how it's set up now. I think it's really unique, and I don't think whether other sports would take it on it would work as well. I just think that Formula E have this really cool one-shot qualifying duels like you do on the Formula 1 games. When you don't want to do qualifying, you can do the one-shot, and that's what the duels feel like. You get that one lap to prove, and one minor mistake can really change the position you're going to end up in. And of course I will praise the knockout stage because it's just fun. There's an app that you can set your predictions on, and it's really fun to play along with Formula E. And as some of you who've watched the sport for a very, very long time know about Fan Boost, and Fan Boost was about integrating. And I think this sort of predictor game is kind of that element of getting involved, and it's certainly fun to have a go with. But yeah, that is sort of my fix to a full wet qualifying. If it's damp track, just keep doing the duels because they are just simply the best. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments below. Obviously, are you a fan of the duels? Do you think they should try the Formula 1 qualifying basic format, which is obviously easier and more recognisable as a qualifying format? Or do you think Formula E are actually right on the money here with their unique, interesting qualifying style? So I'm going to stop waffling, but thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed my take on what I think wet qualifying should be in Formula E.